All right, the Padres, they lose game 1 in Houston 6-4. And did they have an opportunity to win this game? Yes. Am I like super pissed off about it? No. It's Kyle Hart on the mound. He's your 5 starter. If you Darvish was healthy, would Kyle Hart even be on the team? Probably not. The way Randy Vasquez is pitching, I think it would be Randy Vasquez as that 5th starter, if you will. Maybe they would go 6-man, but you get my point. Obviously, like 6-4, and there were some mistake pitches, so it's like, well, you know, it could have been closer. But at the same time, offensively, they had some spots that they could have come through, especially first and second, where Arise and Tatis get on base, or Tatis and Arise. Then Manny grounds in the double play. Bogarts grounds out. I think it was on back-to-back pitches, and that was just a really disappointing quick. I mean, it happened quick. Really disappointing sequence of events there because I mean that's the core of your lineup right there. Those are your stars right there, and you weren't able to get anything from that. I think I was listening to Sammy Levitt on the post game show, and I think he did make a good point about the absence of someone like Jackson Merrill, who has shown that he has the ability to come through in those situations like that. And so if they had Jackson Merrill up in that situation, what would have happened? But obviously you would have Manny up still. It's not like you're not going to have Manny in the lineup. But Bogarts, if Merrill was in the lineup, Bogarts would probably be a little bit lower in the lineup. What inning was that? That was the 5th inning, I think. Yeah. Tatis single, a Rise single. Now the Manny pitch, it was a good pitch. He rolled over. Bogarts rolled over. I forget where the exact pitch location was on Bogarts. But yeah, that was a big situation there where, especially at that time, what was the score? 5-2? Yeah. After Cam Smith's second home run. And talking about those 2 home runs from Cam Smith, he was the guy that was traded in that Kyle Tucker move. Tucker goes to the Cubs for 1 year and then he's going to be a free agent. So this was like the big guy the Astros got back. And he hadn't actually gotten off to the best start numbers wise this year. He's hitting bottom of the order. He's hitting 9th. He's not going to be hitting 9th if projections end up being correct. I don't think he's going to be hitting 9th eventually, but the reality is he was hitting 9th tonight. And one of the 2 home runs was a bad pitch. That was like, all right. Actually, okay, I'll say it this way. Both, I think it was the second one was more of a hanger. The first one, I mean, fastball, I believe it was a fastball down the middle, sweet spot. Like, yeah, that can't happen. And that was obviously the big 3-run home run in the second inning. Padres are up 1-0, then it was 3-0. Or 3-1, excuse me, 3-1 Houston. But the second one, I can't be mad at that. Like, how many ballparks? I didn't look at Baseball Savant. I don't know if that's available, but how many ballparks would that have been a home run at? He hit it into the first row of the Crawford boxes in the corner. And it was like, of course he hit it there. Right there, of course. Didn't go off the wall, didn't go into the gap because he hits it, a few feet to the right. No, he hits it over the wall, of course. So there, that made it 5-2. That was 1 run, though, and the Padres lost by 2. I don't want to make too much of a big deal about the missed call on the stolen base attempt by the Astros. They call him safe, and then they review it, and he's clearly out, and then they still call him safe. And it's like, what's the point of replay? You just wasted 5 minutes or whatever it was of our lives by not even getting the call, the call correct. But it didn't amount to anything, so I'm not going to, speak for 5 minutes on that. Whatever. Sucks. Doug Eddings wasn't great tonight either. But, it's for both sides. Just ultimately it comes down to the Padres. They had some opportunities. Oscar Gonzalez, you would have liked to have him hit Xander, the cutoff man. But at the same time, I do understand what he was doing. Like, where that ball's hit, he grabs it, immediately spins to throw around. I assume that Oscar was thinking, I'm not going to get the runner at home, so why would I throw it to the cutoff man? Just throw it right to second base to at least make sure that runner doesn't get to second base on a double and he stays at first. And then Iglesias, the throws to second base, so he just puts the tag down quick because he doesn't know if the runner's coming from first to second base. But that ended up costing a little bit too, because if he just grabs it and so was it Xander communicating like he needed to communicate? It looked like he was saying something. Did he need to communicate like, hey, to Iglesias, home, 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 and like no one's coming to second base? Because if he would have just caught it and thrown home, I think it would have been close. But instead, he tags and then realizes no one's there, and then on the run, on one foot, one leg, throws it home, and you're not going to get the runner. So there were some disappointing or like frustrating moments in this game. Obviously, the Manny Bogarts thing. Um, I thought Tyler Wade didn't have a great night tonight. Some pitches that sure, if I'm up there at the plate, I'm not hitting. But when you're in the big leagues, you should probably spit on some of those pitches. But that's easy for me to say, and I don't say that too much because I know how hard that is. Um, being in the big leagues. Or I don't know, but I imagine I've I've been at brickyard batting cages and had them ring it up. I remember when I was younger, ring it up to Strasburg's velocity because I just wanted to see, and it's like, all right, yeah, no shot. Like it's hard, so I don't want to. That's why I don't consistently go to that thing. Like, oh, shouldn't have swung at that pitch, you know. But tonight, I did see that from Tyler Wade, where it's like that didn't seem like it was going to be a strike, and so it just some of it wasn't the best at bats tonight. I don't want to pick just on Wade, but he's the first guy that I thought of on that. But yeah, I mean, if you're gonna pick games that the Padres would win, I would think that you pick tomorrow with Michael King on the mound. And then, Dylan Cease hasn't been the best. Kyle Hart was good other than Chicago. So far he's been good at home and not good on the road now, as we add in this Houston outing. But I think you can make the case that you win the final two games of the series. I know Framber's pitching Sunday, but win the final two, Cease, with the track record, hopefully bounce back, and you lose game one with Kyle Hart on the mound. So yeah, this is, the Padres, they're 15-5. Still obviously in a good spot. And these games are going to happen where you don't capitalize 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position, leave 7 guys on base. Your 5, 6 starter, whatever, gives up how many hits? Like 10 hits? Yeah, 10 hits. Didn't walk anyone still, but didn't, struck out only 2 guys, gives up a couple of homers there, obviously, to Smith. Some of those nights are just going to happen. And so that's why them having that big lead, not big lead because it's never been a big lead in the NL West because everyone else is winning except the Rockies, who I don't even think of as like a actual Major League Baseball team because they're not trying. Talking about the front office and ownership, obviously. But like they got off to a great start. And so I'm not saying they can afford to lose 6 straight, but these games are going to happen. The Astros tonight, for example, they win tonight. They're only 9-10. Where would you be in the NL West if you were 9-10? So I'm just trying to keep that in perspective a little bit. It did suck, seeing Josh Hader go in there and lock it down. But yeah, it also sucks looking at this where it's no errors, 12 hits and 12 hits, and the Padres scored 4 runs out of it. Arias, it was nice to see him go yard there. But yeah, just not capitalizing on some of the opportunities that they got. And then some of it was a little bit unlucky. Like the single, I think it was the RBI single that Hart gave up. That was a good pitch. It was where was it Maldi? Yeah, Maldi was catching. It's where he wanted it. And then the second home run, how many ballparks is that home run out of? Is that a fly out in a lot of other ballparks? I know it doesn't matter. You're probably like, Ben, it doesn't matter. They were playing at Daikin Park. So stupid, by the way. It's Minute Maid Park, but they changed the name because it's money and a business and blah, blah, blah. But it's just weird to see that as Daikin Park. Anyway, one of those for me where I'm not, this one doesn't like make me panic about anything. They're 15-5. So we move on, and there you go. The big thing, sure, there was a baseball game today, and But the big thing for me was the injury updates. Jason Hayward, by the way, sore knee, and so he was not in the lineup today. He got scratched. So we'll see what happens with him tomorrow. But the updates there, Jackson Merrill and Brandon Lockridge are actually not in Houston. They're back in San Diego at Petco Park. Hamstring buddies is what Mike Schilt called them. Kevin Acee providing the updates here in the UT. Schilt says it's a little aggressive to expect Merrill back at the start of the next homestand on April 25th. That's going to start that one off against the Rays. Don't know if Ha-Seong Kim is healthy, but he is a member of the Rays now. We're not putting a timeline on this right now, Schilt said. He's got to progress to a good, consistent jog before he can go any further. So I look at that and I'm like, okay, that's great. Not the update that we wanted. So my optimism that, hey, maybe he comes back beginning of the race, beginning of that homestand. I'm thinking more it's going to be May now. I was looking at, because I have family in Minnesota, I was looking at the Twins IL and just seeing how they were doing. And Royce Lewis is dealing with a hamstring. And he suffered that, I want to say, in March, end of March, maybe. And he may not come back until May as well. So, it could take some time here. You don't want to rush a hamstring when it's April 18th and you're 15-5, Would you like Jackson Merrill up at the plate in one of these situations tonight? Of course. But I also want him up at the plate for 50 of those later down the line, Not one and then something happens. Same with Lockridge, obviously. I think he can be solid defensively. Don't want to rush him. And even if he's not going to be on the big league roster, well, it can be depth, right? But yeah, the hamstring buddies seems like they're not consistently jogging. And that's what he has to do before the Padres can go further there with that rehab. Padres, they're being cautious, obviously, with his return to guard against a recurrence. Lockridge, his injuries in his left leg. Jake Cronenworth, the update there, he did more and more intense work Friday than he had since going on the IL with a fractured rib a week earlier. Cronenworth said, now, he said this, I assume today, so he's in Houston with the team. The way I felt last week, I didn't think I'd be here. Cronenworth worked on change of direction, took ground balls without throwing. He did play some catch, though. So there's steps, obviously, to this process. Dry swings with the bat. So, again, like the steps, it feels like to me they do dry swings, maybe a couple of days of that, maybe just one day here. If he recovers, how does he feel tomorrow? Then go off the tee. And just take those steps to getting to full pitching, right? Live batting practice, something like that. Because with this, he can come back before the fracture is totally healed. It's a matter of pain tolerance. That's what this is. Crony said it. Mike Schilt said it today. The initial timeline for his return, 4 to 6 weeks. That's about how long a non-displaced rib fracture takes to heal. That's what Crony's dealing with. But again, he can come back before it's totally healed. He was optimistic he could return before the 4 weeks. From what they told me, the only way I can re-injure it is if I get hit, Cronenworth said. And you can't control that. If that's going to happen, it's going to happen. So Cronenworth's a tough guy, obviously. So I could totally see him coming back before the 4 weeks. And he was placed on the IL, what was that, like a week ago? So 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks would be May 2nd. So not this road trip, obviously, but the next road trip, maybe he comes back. But I would think we're still looking at, another week plus of no Jake Cronenworth, which some would say it's not that big of a deal. But obviously, Mike Schilt would love to have, Crony as an option to pinch hit, to be at second base, and have Iglesias be able to come in as a defensive replacement, play matchups, give guys days off. Because now, when you have Iglesias at second, and obviously other injuries, you have Tyler Wade, who would be kind of that bench guy that could sub in for guys. You have him playing, you have Iglesias playing. So now it's probably Mike Schultz not I don't want to speak for him, and he probably would just say he's confident in everybody. That's why they're on the big league roster. But if you look at the Padres depth chart right now and who's sitting there on the bench as those infield options or bat off the bench, do you want to go to Connor Joe? Do you want to go to Yuli Gurriel? The answer is no with Yuli Gurriel. Uh, Wade's playing. Iglesias is playing. Bogarts is playing. Manny's playing. Gavin Sheets is going to be DHing pretty much every day with Arise at first, right? And like Connor Joe, he's not going to be playing in the middle infield. And who's the other? Yuli. Yuli's not playing middle infield. So, like, that forces Iglesias and Bogarts to be playing every day. Now, the good thing is the Padres have had days off every Thursday. So it's not like they're playing 13 games in a row and stuff, something like that. But Bogarts has had some injuries, obviously. So they probably want to monitor that. And it's a long season. So you'd like to have Manny be able to DH um, at some point. So you'd obviously like to have Crony in there. The Darvish update. Hang on, before Darvish, AC writes there remain many steps before Cronenworth can play full go without discomfort. It's hard to say because it's like I don't know what's going to have an adverse reaction yet, Crony said. So we're kind of going until that happens. It's like let's just keep progressing as we're progressing and see where it ends. You just take steps, take another step, take another step. Do you feel pain? No. Take another step. Do you feel pain? No. Take another step till you can, you know, till you prove to yourself to the training staff that yeah, I can go play. Darvish, he is expected to take a significant step in his throwing progression this weekend by actually pitching in the bullpen at closer to full intensity than he has been. He obviously elbow inflammation, IL. He's thrown off the mound in the bullpen 3 times, but I believe all 3 times the catcher was standing and not squatting. They weren't real bullpens. It was, getting the feel of being on a mound, I think, is what this was. Glorified games of catch is what Kevin described it as. His progressing to actual pitching and how he feels after that can provide the Padres with a better idea of when he might return. AC says here Darvish will almost certainly need at least 3 or 4 bullpen sessions before progressing to facing hitters. At this point, his return would not come before late May or early June. I obviously want Darvish, ready for the stretch run, the most important times of the season. And the way overall this rotation has performed, yeah, Darvish, take your time. And regardless, he's going to have to take his time, right? Because it is a long season. We got to have the long-term view on this. But I wasn't expecting him to be out till June, which is a possibility here. But, all we can deal with, I mean, we're fans, so we can't deal with it, but you get my point. All the Padres can do is just make sure that he is healthy each step on this rehab and he's progressing. And the good thing for us, Padres fans sitting here talking about it, is he's progressing. So we can just, clap to that. And he gets back when he gets back. Michael King's been pitching well. Dylan Cease, there's the track record there. If Kyle Hart, has a few more iffy outings, they can go to Steven Kolek. Randy Vasquez has been pitching really well. Who am I forgetting? Pivetta. 75% of his outings have been really good. And the one outing, again, was in the mid-40s at Wrigley, which is, not ideal baseball conditions. So overall, the rotation's in a good spot. Padres, but best bullpen in the league. So I think, like, if we were to play the game of who are the Padres missing more, Darvish, Merrill, or Cronenworth, right? The answer is Merrill. And maybe we would have said Merrill at the beginning of the season if, we would have thrown these injuries out there because Merrill plays every day. But with the talent in this lineup, I mean, and the question marks with Vasquez, Kyle Hart, Pivetta not as much going into the season, I could make the argument for Darvish a little bit there. So that's the good thing, that I think the slam dunk answer right now is Merrill. But yeah, that's what I've got on the injury updates. Again, Padres, they lose tonight to the Houston Astros 6-4. Kyle Hart did give up a good amount of hits, but I don't think people should overreact. Obviously, they will on social media, but I don't think we should overreact at this outing. RBI single, it was a good pitch. One of the home runs, it was, you know, 1 foot to the right and it's off the wall, couple feet probably, couple yards to the right, it's off the wall. And it could have totally been different. And they had opportunities. There was still some Padres stuff in there. Tyler Wade beating out a double play, allows to run the score. Luis Ariz continuing to hit pretty well. So there was still some like good Padres stuff in there tonight, but obviously just not good enough.